My boyfriend said all the right things but never followed through, and on Valentine's Day, while I sat alone, he went out with his ex. That's when I realized I've been disappearing in this relationship for months. I've been thinking about tonight for weeks. How oddly terrible it would feel, even though I didn't expect it to be anything special. See, I've never been a fan of Valentine's Day. Gifts and orchestrated surprises, it just feels so forced to me. I don't want affection because it's February 14th. I want it because you feel that way about me on any random Tuesday. And honestly, I've never had a Valentine's Day that wasn't riddled with disappointment or awkwardness or some version of someone's not in the mood. So I stopped trying. For me, it's just another day. And this year, I was okay with that. No expectations, no disappointment, no forced smiles. I thought I'd be fine. But then the timing hit differently this year. On top of all my ambivalence about the day, my boyfriend flew out 3 days ago to visit his ex. They broke up years ago, nothing dramatic, no cheating, no huge hatred. They parted because of timing and other life complications, and stayed in touch casually. She's a genuinely nice person, lives across the country, and is just in town for a week. He's gone for a few drinks with her after work and sent me a text about how weird and nice it was to catch up. I replied, I was fine with it, all rational adult words. I get it. It's okay. Go have fun. Be safe. I love you. But I lied to myself just a bit while typing. Because watching everyone else on social media, heart-filled messages, couples posting selfies on their dinner dates, florists and candy makers flying off with marketing slogans about celebrate love, made my stomach twist. And knowing he was out with her felt like a slap on the day's irony. I don't think he's cheating. I don't think he's in love with her again. I think they're just reconnecting over beers. They have history, inside jokes, that ex-language you never fully unlearn. But I'm not dumb. I can picture them in a bar, laughing, leaning close, sharing old stories, wondering about what went right or wrong. And yeah, it hurts. It stings. Not because I think he's being unfaithful, but because it lines up with a day I already despise, and it highlights how alone I felt doing exactly what I said I'd be doing, staying home by myself. I want to be mature about it. I don't want to be one of those nonsensical, jealous girlfriends whispering accusations. So I won't bring it up. I tell myself I won't. But every time I scroll through Instagram, seeing heart posts and happy meals, I wonder why I feel so empty. Why I feel like crying. Why watching my favorite podcasts post Valentine captions about their partners makes me ache in my chest. It's painful even as I don't want it to be beautiful. I hate Valentine's Day, but I hate feeling lonely on Valentine's Day even more. I hate that I feel insecure and emotional. That I'm angry at him, but pretending I'm not. That I told myself I'd be alone and okay, but I'm really lonely and sad. I told myself it was my failing. I told myself I'm being insecure for no reason. I told myself the mature thing is silence. But silent feels hollow. And I hate that I'm crying tonight. I hate that I'm stuck. Because I'm not going to open my mouth. I could say something. I could text, hey, hope the night was fun, or we should talk when you get back. But that feels needy. That feels like fishing for signs that maybe he cares, that maybe Valentine's Day made him think of me even a little bit. I can't do that. I won't cast my hopes into the void again. No, this year, I will not ask. I will not expect. I will swallow the emptiness like a bitter medicine. I'll stay here. I'll watch a show I've never cried at before. I'll keep my phone face down and pretend not to hear it buzz. I'll eat some takeout or popcorn or whatever sounds okay in a moment. I'll maybe try a crossword or read a chapter of a book that was recommended to me. And I'll let the tears come if they come, because just as much as I don't want them to, they're there. Maybe I'll put on my favorite song and hum it. Maybe I'll lie in the dark and think about how I used to romanticize Valentine's Day as a kid, trusting someone, putting faith in the promise of hearts and flowers. Maybe I'll accept that I'm older now and Valentine's Day is a hollow holiday, but human emotions aren't so straightforward. That sometimes, even when we say we don't care, we do. So yes, this is my Valentine's Day. Alone, sad, writing this in a journal format because I can't say it out loud. I'm hurting even though it's against my own rules. I want to be strong. I want to be okay. But I also want someone to text me first. Just this once. I don't know if that's too much to ask, but it's what I feel. And then later that day, I felt hollow, worthless. The realization struck like a backhanded slap. All the little things that I had been letting go for years, those small hurts, the moments he forgot me, the promises he silently buried, they actually mattered. But I didn't allow myself to care. I didn't give myself permission. He's not a bad man. He's sweet, affectionate, comforting in his tone, and generous with his words. He loves me, I think, but he's also stupidly oblivious. Oblivious to what his inaction does to me. He doesn't see the picture. And part of me hates him for not noticing, but part of me hates myself more for never telling him. I've always shut down emotional crackles before they became emotional earthquakes because I believed I didn't deserve to be hurt or to ask for more than fleeting attention. I've made my peace with the fact that I'm a damaged person, autistic, trauma-bearing, disabled, and deeply insecure. I have needs. I have scars. And I do not always know how to sit up straight in relationships where love is expected to flow one way. Especially when all I've ever learned is that being seen meant being quiet. My communication skills were never nurtured. I was taught to be the good, silent girl who wouldn't rock the boat. I learned early that anyone else's upset was my fault, and any moment of me was a demand I couldn't afford. What I needed was therapy. I needed someone to help me untangle the cords of old pain and learn to feel, name, feel again, speak. But therapy, proper therapy, is a dream where I live. I'm disabled, unable to work, in a place with no accessible mental health care. Private isn't just hard, it's impossible. So I've taken to writing, thinking, trying to unlearn in my own voice. But unlearning guilt, perfectionism, invisibility, it's like trying to rewrite ancient maps of your soul with a crayon. Last night was the breaking point. He asked quietly if I was okay. I said fine. I was tired and disoriented, but not fine. The weight of 1,000 unmet affections pressed down on my chest. I couldn't breathe. I remembered all the times I said it was okay. When he'd forget our dinner plan, when he'd promise to come home early and stay late, when he'd send me, "I love you" texts from the other room while scrolling social media. Each time I swallowed. Because it seemed too petty to say, "You didn't do what you said you'd do." And besides, I didn't feel allowed to care. But I looked at him in that moment and realized how alone I felt, how squashed and unseen. The person I built my life with often didn't recognize me in the spaces between words. I told him then, shaking and half crying, that I felt worthless. Not because of what he said, but because of what he didn't. He said he didn't want to hurt me. I said, I think he already has. He said he loves me. I said, so do words, but actions matter too. We had an hour-long conversation that sprawled across half-truths, misunderstandings, and gentle rage. He asked what I needed. Not flowers. Not declarations on social media. That's easy, I told him. Just notice me. Don't make promises and drift away. Don't say you'll be there and then vanish. Be the person you say you are in the real, tiny moments. He was quiet. He was listening. That's all I've wanted. I told him also about being poly, something we've shared since before we met. Poly isn't a free pass to all intimacy. It means consent, boundaries, honesty. In past, I thrived on multiple sides of love because I had independence and ambition outside of him. I worked, I had goals. I was alive. Now I'm mostly immobile. I have no income, no workplace, no external structure. And that's not his fault, but it did cripple the equilibrium of how we practice relationship. I need emotional independence built, not loaned. I also explained that this isn't about cheating. Not yet. It's about the insidious little unlived moments, the after-dinner hug that slipped away, the phone call forgotten, the drive that left me falling silent. Saying, I love you, and then disappearing was enough, over time, to unravel me. Because love isn't language. It's moment-to-moment presence. It's noticing the worn lines on my face in morning light, sitting still beside me when I cry, asking about me when the week drifts by. He nodded slowly. He said he didn't realize he'd withheld care. I didn't even know how to articulate what withheld looked like until that night. He said he wants to help me learn to ask, wants to help me speak, wants to create space for me to feel. That's a miracle I've missed out on for a long time, but there it was. He saw me cry and didn't shrink back. But seeing isn't enough. I told him I need practice. I need him to learn to remember the small things. Like sending a "how's your body feeling today?" text when I've barely moved all day. Like planning a simple evening with coffee and a book discussion. Like saying, I love you, and staying present when I'm fragile, not leaving me softly, but suddenly. And I need to learn to hear that because I have trauma, because I'm autistic, because I learned silence didn't carry safety, it carried invisibility. I once asked for what I need, just a half-hour walk together, and he nodded and kept playing video games instead. And I let it go. Again. And I don't want to keep letting go. Not of this. Asterisk. I explained I was triggering his exes. I understood that after we hit rock bottom, I may feel jealous or uncertain. But love isn't diluted by other love. His romantic history is an erasure of me. It's part of him. But he needs to show me I'm still here, still wanted, in the in-between lines of his life. Otherwise, silence will become final. Consent requires care. Rule isn't just clarity, it's presence. That's why I said we need a break. Not to end, not to punish, but to breathe. To learn words and actions again. To learn what it means to show up. He said yes. He said he wanted that too. My breath shook to hear him choose us again. Now, here's what I need to remember. I deserve to belong. I deserve to matter. I deserve love that meets me in the mundane. I've been told no. I've delayed asking. I've convinced myself I wouldn't miss it when it didn't arrive. But healing begins there, in naming the need, feeling its hunger, and speaking it aloud. Over the next weeks, we'll learn newborn steps. To text each other midday about a small detail. To set the table together and eat together. To look in each other's eyes before sleep. To call in words and in deed. I'm terrified and hopeful because this is the real work. No fireworks, no dramatic rescues, just uncurling our grown-up selves and deciding that we deserve to reach, wordlessly but insistently, for each other every day. Now, 5 days later, and I've been sitting in this weird, muddy space of being equally annoyed at him and at myself. I've run every thought through my head so many times, I've started to feel like I'm spiraling. I'm not even crying anymore, just exhausted. There's a kind of stillness that sets in when you felt disappointed for so long that it stops being a surprise and just becomes part of the background noise of your life. He fucked up. But I did too. And not in the same way, not with the same weight, but in the quiet, internal way I always do. I didn't communicate. I didn't speak up. I convinced myself again and again that it didn't matter, that I didn't matter. And I let him off the hook for far too many things, which just taught him he didn't have to try. That I'd accept whatever effort he had left over. To be clear, I don't think he cheated.
This was never about that.
I know he didn't, and honestly, I don't think he would. We're poly, we've been open from the beginning, but being poly doesn't mean anything goes. We have boundaries, agreements. And yes, for both of us, exes are off limits. Not because of jealousy, but because of emotional history and how messy they can get. That boundary was clear, and he didn't cross it in that way. What he did do, what really hurt, was remind me again that I am not a priority. That when he makes plans with me, they're always vague and soft and flexible. Like, I'd love to take you to dinner sometime, or we should go somewhere when things settle down. But the plans he makes with others? Those get dates.
Times.
Movement. Follow through. Like the drinks with his ex. It wasn't that he chose to see her. It was that he chose to see her.
He made the time.
He found the space.
He made it happen.
Meanwhile, the dinner he's been saying he wants to take me to for over a month? Still hasn't happened. Always postponed. Always soon. He even messaged me that day, saying he wanted to take me out but hadn't planned it yet. And I don't think he even realized how hollow that sounded in the context of everything else. What made it worse was that I had already been planning something for him, for next month, for his birthday. A little trip. Something meaningful. Something fun. I was doing what I always do. Showing love through acts, through time and effort and quiet, practical things. And then I looked up from my browser tabs and realized he doesn't do the same. He says he wants to. He says all the right things. But when it comes down to it, it's always just words. And it wasn't because it was Valentine's Day.
I don't even care about that holiday.
I've always hated the performative nature of it. But on that day, everyone else was talking about feeling loved, feeling seen, feeling chosen. And I realized I didn't. Not even a little bit. Not because I wasn't showered in gifts or taken out to some overpriced restaurant, but because I've been waiting for something, anything from him that looks like care in action. And it never comes. So I sat there alone and thought about how often I do that. How often I swallow my feelings because I'm afraid of being too much. How many times I've justified his inaction by telling myself he's just busy, or tired, or distracted. How many birthdays, anniversaries, or just because days have quietly passed me by. And how many times I've told myself it was fine when it wasn't. And what really broke me, I think, was the realization that I'd become complicit in my own unhappiness. That every time I bit my tongue or made an excuse or said it's okay, I was saying I didn't matter. That what I needed didn't matter. So I told him. Not just the surface level stuff, but the real, raw mess underneath it. that it's not about big gestures, that I don't care about fancy dinners or planned weekends away or surprise gifts. I care about effort, about the simple things, about being thought of, about knowing that when he says, I want to spend time with you, he means it enough to follow through. Because love without follow-through is just noise. And I told him that if he wanted to be with me, he would have been. Already. Before the break. Before the fight. Before the tears. He wouldn't have kept pushing things off. He wouldn't have needed me to fall apart to see what was missing. And that's the hardest part. Knowing that all the things I was hoping would eventually come were never going to, unless I broke the silence. I hate that I feel like I have to fight to be seen. I hate that love in my life has so often been something I've had to earn. And I hate that I let it happen again. That I let myself believe, for a while, that breadcrumbs were enough. I've spent the past few days sitting with everything, my emotions, the past year, the relationship, and most of all, myself. I've cried, gotten angry, gone numb, and then circled back again. It's like peeling back the layers of something I didn't even realize had gotten so tangled. And what keeps surfacing is this overwhelming awareness of how much work I still have to do on myself. Not just surface-level stuff. Deep, fundamental, rooted in childhood things. I don't just have trouble expressing myself, I have trouble even identifying what I'm feeling in the first place. My emotional vocabulary is limited, not because I don't feel deeply, but because I never learned how to process any of it. I was taught to swallow pain, avoid conflict, and never inconvenience anyone with my needs. I was taught silence is safety. But silence becomes a prison when you're trying to build intimacy. I know my partner isn't perfect. He messes up. He misses things. He doesn't always think beyond the immediate. But I also know I've been so passive about my needs that it probably hasn't always been clear where the line is between I'm fine and I'm barely holding it together. I can't expect him to read between the lines of a silence I've spent years perfecting. That doesn't mean he's off the hook. Not at all.
This isn't me excusing him.
It's just me realizing that the way forward, if there's one, has to involve more than just a conversation about how things went wrong. It has to involve action. Rebuilding. So we've taken a few days apart. Nothing dramatic, no shouting or ultimatums. Just time to think, breathe, reset. We agreed we both needed space. I needed to hear my own thoughts without the constant swirl of trying to manage his. He needed to sit with what I said, not just hear it but really feel it. Because at the end of the day, talking about the state of a relationship is only part of the solution. Words can only go so far. We both know what has to come next matters more. Consistency, behavior, follow-through. I need to get better at recognizing and voicing my needs. He needs to show up, not just promise or explain, but do. Love is a verb. It always has been. And look, I know people are going to have opinions. Some will say I should have just ended it. Walked away. Blocked him. Burned the bridge. But this was never about cheating. I've said that from the beginning and I mean it. It was never about betrayal in the traditional sense. No lies, no secret rendezvous, no sneaking around. Just the slow erosion that comes from not being truly seen or prioritized. The kind of hurt that builds up quietly in the absence of presence. Sometimes relationships don't fall apart because of one big betrayal. They rot quietly from neglect. From not being tended to. From the gap between intention and action getting too wide to bridge. And while the thing with his ex did hurt, it wasn't about her. It was about me, and how invisible I had come to feel. It was about how loudly his lack of effort echoed in that moment. I saw someone from his past show up, and he carved out space for her immediately. Made time, cleared his schedule. I couldn't help but think, why don't I get that kind of priority? But here's the truth. Some of that pain didn't come from him. Some of it came from the aching well of my own self-worth. The part of me that still feels like I have to earn love, prove my value, be good enough to deserve the basic care and consistency I give so freely to others. That insecurity has deep roots. And while his actions highlighted it, they didn't create it. I've realized now that this is what happens when you don't believe your needs are valid. You get into relationships where your needs are consistently unmet. And you don't say anything because deep down, you believe maybe that's all you deserve. But I'm done with that. And while we're on the subject, I need to say this out loud. I don't believe people can't be friends with their exes. I don't believe men and women can't have platonic friendships. That's such a reductive, cishet, black and white view of human relationships, and it's just not reflective of reality. I'm bisexual. I've had friends and partners of all genders. If you think people can't be close to others they're potentially attracted to without it being a threat, then you're basically saying every queer person can't be trusted to have friends at all. That's not how this works. Relationships, romantic, platonic, or anything in between, are built on trust and mutual respect.
Period.
I don't feel in competition with every person he's ever slept with or might sleep with. That's not what polyamory or healthy monogamy, for that matter, is about. It's not a territory thing. It's about understanding that a relationship is defined by the agreements between the people in it. If he values me, if we build trust, then I don't need to feel threatened. But that only works if we're both showing up and actually doing the work.
Not just talking about it.
If you think I need therapy, you're absolutely right. I do. I desperately want it. But where I live, on a remote island, no private options, it's just not possible. The NHS here basically only cares if you're actively suicidal or able to return to the workforce. I'm disabled and unable to work, and so getting any support has been nearly impossible. So, yes, I'm trying, but I'm essentially teaching myself how to process all of this with almost no professional help. That's hard.
Raw. Messy.
And the toll it's taken, emotionally, mentally, physically, is its own kind of story. Because for the past 2 days I've been bedridden with a migraine so bad I haven't eaten more than a few bites. My energy tank has bottomed out. The anxiety, the tension, the heartbreak, they don't stay locked in your brain. They settle into your body. That's been the physical echo of all this. Headaches, exhaustion, indigestion, involuntary tears. When you've got adrenal fatigue from chronic stress, your body starts to attack itself. It's no surprise, really, that a relationship crisis would end up collapsing me into bed for a day or two. So yes, to the people who say I need help, I wholeheartedly agree. I'm doing my best to get it. But sometimes doing your best is just staying alive, treading water, whispering harsh truths to your reflection in the dark. I'm learning what I can learn. I'm reaching for every scrap of insight I can find. I'm naming my pain and my needs long-form in messages that fill notebooks because there's no one else to see them with me. Right now, I don't know if we're going to make it. We're in a trial period, a liminal test phase where anything goes. We could build something better or slip back into old complacencies. I've told him there's no going back to the old US. I need to see it. He needs to show it. And I'm not talking about elaborate, magical moments or big gestures. I'm talking about the ordinary, the invisible labor of love, the texts when he's away, the simple scheduling of evening walk, like it matters, even if it's just Sunday and we both have nothing else to do. I need the hey, thought of you. Not because I want unnecessary affection, but because I needed you and I need you still. Some of you have reached out with real support, asking how I'm doing, offering bits of insight, sharing your own stories of slow healing. I want you all to know, thank you. Your kindness matters. And what I'm learning is, even without therapy, we can find solace in connection. Read stories and comments, features in people's voices through text. That helps too. To the others who quickly jump to judge or insult, I understand the impatience, but I hope you'll find empathy too. Because these situations aren't black and white. They're fractal, they're slow, they're inside our heads later at 3 a.m. when we're trying to sleep and can't stop touring the memory of every small thing that went wrong. Sometimes the biggest breakthrough isn't calling things off, it's wrestling with whether you're allowed to want better. As I move forward, I'm making one commitment. I will do better for myself. I won't erase my needs, and I will expect them to be met. Not perfectly, not before dawn, but consistently. Because sometimes the definition of love is showing up in ways that don't require fireworks, but do require intention. We're giving us this chance, the chance to see if this works. To see if he can learn to do the consistent things. To see if I can learn to express my needs and not shrink. If we make it past these next weeks and months, it won't be because of a splashy romantic gesture. It'll be because he consistently looked up from his phone, heard me in a hush, and showed me I mattered, even when there was nothing else in the room to prove it. That's the test. That's the difference between saying, I want you, and saying, I'm actually here. Because just because what I need isn't grand, doesn't mean it doesn't deserve to exist. And ultimately, I refuse to believe that wanting the bare minimum is too much. It's not just reasonable. It's essential.
So we'll take day by day.
Softly, deliberately. I won't be updating again. Not because this doesn't matter, but because this process is ours and ours alone. This is my final piece here. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for reminding me, even through the screen, that small things can mean everything.